Indiana basketball took down Maryland on the road 83-78, rallying back from 16 points, using a big second half to overtake and beat the Terrapins on Sunday afternoon. This is the Hoosier Illustrated Postgame Wrap-Up. I'm Drew Rosenberg. That's Kyler Staley. Kyler, really just a lot of standout performance today. I'm going to start with the 6-year senior guard, Xavier Johnson. 13 points, 6 assists, off the bench, but played 31 minutes. Kind of his, I guess, homecoming, from the DMV area. Big game. He mentioned it all week, talking about how important this game was to him. What do you see from him today?
Yeah, I mean, first off, good for Xavier Johnson, right? I mean, that dude's went through so much this past 2 years in basketball, and he talked about it a lot over Zoom a few days ago. It was a really emotional, Zoom call that had and everything. And, he said basketball is his first love, and, it was taken away from him this past year. And, this year you expected him to be back, hopefully fully healthy. I know Mike Woodson desperately needed him this season, and he's talked about how X was a big piece of the puzzle. And tonight, it was just awesome for him to go out there and play the way he did, in front of his family. I think they said something around 16 to 19 of his family members were at the game. So that's special. And he made some key plays, especially down the stretch. Got that goaltending call was called on Maryland, and then he got that steal. And he was just really up in the face of, the Maryland guards and really pressured them. Caused them to get forced into some tough shots and some tough situations. Forced a lot of turnovers there that way. But no, just good for him. 13 points, 2 or 3 shooting. I'm trying to find out what his turnover stat was.
I believe it was one turnover.
Yeah, see, that's great. That's good Xavier Johnson right there. Obviously Xavier Johnson, you're going to get a lot of different types of X, throughout the year. So, or when he's playing on the floor. But this game, he was that senior guard that they needed. Just a big performance for him. I still like how they're running Gabe Cuffs as the starter at this point, just because, you're at a situation where he needs to get those starter minutes to get more experience. But, Michael Woodson's trusting Xavier Johnson. He's giving him a lot of run here. So it was just good to see overall.
Yeah, and another standout, Mackenzie Mbako. He finished with 24 points, 2 rebounds, but his second half was really where he took over. 18 points in the second half, 6 or 8 from the field. Just arguably, I'd say maybe his best performance as a Hoosier this year.
I mean, yeah, definitely. It's his career high for sure. So you have the stats to really back that up as well. But you want to talk about that run that Indiana had. That run where what was the final? How much did Indiana score? Maryland 50-35.
Yeah,
second half. Somewhere, yeah. So yeah, and then you throw in the 15-0 run, the 31-13 run, and all those that just huge run that Indiana had. They were down 16. You credit a lot of that to Mackenzie Mbako because he was stepping up and hitting shots. This is the type of Mackenzie Mbako that you kind of wanted to see at the beginning of the year, but with a lot of players like that, they have a lot of pressure that builds with them and stuff, and it just took Mackenzie Mbako time. It really did. Obviously, still some things he's got to work on the defensive end, but offensively, he's playing out of his mind right now, and he is stepping up and making shots. And he's a very confident player. You can kind of see that in his eyes and everything. And what I really like about him too, he's not settling for jumpers. He's getting the defender off balance, and he's taking it to the rack too as well. So big performance for him. 24 points, 8 of 15 shooting, 4 of 8 from behind the arc. I think Indiana shot 44% from 3, and a lot of that was from Mackenzie Mbako. So, credit to him there for that run. Obviously, you can credit a lot of guys. Malik Renew, Trey Galloway, Khalil Ware stepped up in the second half after having a really, really rough half there. But, you credit a lot of guys, but especially Mackenzie Mbako, who kind of led the charge there.
Yeah, it really seemed, offensively, Mackenzie Mbako sparked a bit of the run, but the defensive side of the ball was really where Indiana, I guess, turned the game on, it felt like. In the first half, allowed 43 points. Maryland scored, I think it was 1.265 points per possession. In the second half, dropped it to just above 1. And it was that run. Maryland went 5 minutes, 55 seconds without scoring, had 5 turnovers in that little stretch. That was the difference in this one.
Yeah, and especially, the mental mistakes by Indiana that had in the first half. That's basically all it was. I think they ended up with 9 turnovers, in which had Maryland scored 10 points off of. So Maryland goes into the half with a 10-point lead just based off those turnovers. That's all it was. And, Indiana's offense was really good in the first half. I'll give it to that. It was just the mental errors of the turnovers and everything. And then you mentioned the defensive end. I tweeted before the start of the second half. I said, clean up the turnovers, clamp down on defense a little bit more, and you're right back in it. Obviously, it was kind of worrisome when Maryland went up by 16 in the second half, but Indiana just stuck to their game plan, and they showed a lot of toughness and a lot of fight, and that's just things that we haven't seen from this Indiana team all season. And it did start on the defensive end. Defense turned in the offense there. You forced Maryland in some really tough shots, got them out of their rhythm on offense, and give credit to Maryland as well, because they're actually a pretty good defensive team, and Indiana really just took it at them this year, or this game. So they completed the season sweep with them. It was a big, big win for Indiana, especially, the season hasn't gone the way that many had hoped it would, but you get a road win. You're right now, you're just trying to build momentum for the postseason play for the Big Ten tournament right now. And a win like this today was really big for Indiana to keep out of that Final Four, the bottom four at the end of the Big Ten standings. So, big one for Indiana. You saw the potential that this Indiana team had all along today. They just got to keep building off of it and just keep playing really good basketball.
Yeah, and then thinking ahead, if you're able to hypothetically keep Mackenzie Mbaka and Malik Renew in Bloomington, add a Liam McNeely around them, maybe Trey Galloway stays, and you add some pieces in the portal, you're starting to see what this team could be next year, especially is if Mackenzie Mbaka is able to get more consistent and put up these type of performances on a more regular basis.
Absolutely, you are. And that's probably, you got a checklist if you're Mike Woodson going into the offseason. And I also just want to quickly say, I feel like this is the type of game where you're going to start seeing what Mike Woodson's vision is a little bit with them. Obviously a lot of blame goes on Mike Woodson this year. There's still some frustrations within the fan base overall, but I think he did a really good job coaching this game. And you kind of see what he was saying. It's a young team that was just trying to figure out a lot of things. And tonight, I think they figured out a lot, especially because they had their senior point guard, back there as well. And then you got Mackenzie Mbaka stepping up. But yeah, I think you do have a checklist when you look at it. And I think one of those checklists are get Mackenzie Mbaka and Malik Renew back in Bloomington. And then obviously just build around the portal, get the portal pieces, get the guys that you want back within this program, and just build from there. And honestly get some experienced players as well. I think that's big for them. So, really, really good win for Indiana. I think when I looked at it, this is the first back-to-back win for Indiana since December. So that's great. And we also didn't even touch on it. They went 14 of 17 on the free throw line. That's outstanding. And that's how you win games and everything. And they finished with only 14 turnovers, for only 5 turnovers in the second half. So you take that every day, but good win by Indiana. They got another tough one on the road with Minnesota coming up, so we'll just see kind of what that's about. Minnesota's playing for, an NCAA tournament berth, so we'll just see what they can do there.
Yeah, this is the Hoosier Illustrated Postgame Wrap-Up. Indiana will be back in action next week on the road at Minnesota before wrapping up the regular season on Sunday for senior night against Michigan State. Make sure you're checking out the HoosierIllustrated.com website, checking out Indiana_FRN on Twitter, Facebook, and the Hoosier Illustrated YouTube and Spotify for full coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and all Indiana sports. Thanks for watching.